And Sam's like, hold up, I thought banshees were good. And Dean's like, well, those that are tied to fairy lore are, but these guys, they're total dickbags. And so he hands him this tablet. And Sam is looking at the Ancient Origins site, which is still up, but has a different picture on it. And Dean describes how the banshee screams, forces the victim to crack open their head so that their meal is prepared, which is smart because that way she doesn't have to mess up her nails. And right, or her dress, getting like all the brain gooshies over it. It's like, you just do it for yourself, and then I just come in and politely eat, you know? And he says that the victims are the only ones who can hear them. They travel through mist and they prey on the vulnerable. They only hunt at night and they can be killed with the gold blade. So how much of this is true? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about lore. I was not looking forward to researching Banshees. One, I was very much traumatized by the Banshee in Darby O'Gill and the Little People as a child. I refused to watch it to see if it's still terrifying, because I bet it is. Two, I also thought Banshees are kind of boring. I mean, a woman screams and then someone dies. Woo! But once I cracked the old internet and 22 pages of notes later, I did find out some cracking stories about the Banshees. Irish things I did there. So the word Banshee comes from the Irish an Banshee, which looks nothing like it sounds. And so it translates to the fairy woman, or woman of the fairy mounds, or woman of the other world. She's not quite a psychopomp, but she is what somebody called a supernatural death messenger. Title of my next album. All right, so she straddles the world of the living and the dead. Her message of death often comes as wailing, screaming, or crying. She prefers being alone and outside. If she comes near a house, though, all hell breaks loose. Often her visitations are accompanied by other haunting phenomena like lights flickering, sounds, tapping, knocking, etc. So she's got a whole bunch of different names all over. Like, she's mainly Ireland, Scotland, kind of, Celtic. So in Southern Ireland, she is known as the I was going to say that, or the washing woman, as she sometimes appears at streams washing clothes as a warning of a person's pending death. Sometimes she is seen washing the linens of the person who is about to die, which I think is nice because everybody likes clean sheets, especially if you're sick, right? They just feel good. So this is from J.G. Campbell's 1900 article, Superstitions of the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, so blame them for what I'm about to tell you. In Mull and Tyree, she is said to have preternaturally long breasts, which are in the way as she stoops at her washing, and so she throws them over her shoulder. Whoever sees her must not turn away, but steal up behind her and catch one of her breasts and put it in his mouth. He should then call her to witness that she is his first wet nurse. She answers that he has need of that being the case and will then communicate whatever he desires. He can then tell her to continue washing if the shirt is that of an enemy, or tell her to stop if it belongs to a friend or family member.
Do they have to say all that with the tit in their mouth?
I think so. So, addition to that, Campbell goes on to say that in Skye, which is the land of my people, that she is said to be squat and not unlike a small, pitiful child. In the Highlands, she's said to be small and round and dressed in green. And by moonlight, she spreads the linen of those about to die. And if you want to catch her, if you get in between the linen and the stream, then you can control her and make her do your bidding. Basically, the banshees know who's going to die when. Right. So if you catch them, then they will tell you like basically your future. So there's variations on her, right? Sometimes she's ugly. Sometimes she's beautiful. Sometimes she's dressed in a white cloak with red shoes and long white hair, often combing her hair with a red comb. Sometimes she's a small woman with long golden hair and a little plaid shawl. Sometimes she's a beautiful lady with more flowing hair. Sometimes she's a tall, thin woman with long brown hair. Just basically a woman. She can be tall. She can be small. She's got long hair, though. Let's brush it with the comb.
They all agree on that.
They all agree. Yeah. So, and when I read somewhere, a respectable Irish women always had their hair up and covered. And so there was some implication too of the hair being down.
Mhm.
Just you kind of what it says about her as a being, whatever. And also she's often associated with that comb. And there's a lot of stories about the fate of those who steal her comb or just find it. They also often talk about how she's got this powerful grip. And Bettina Kimpton, I love the name Bettina. She sounds like a Muppet. Bettina Kimpton tells the imprint of the Banshee's 5 fingers in her article, Blow the House Down, quoting the Banshee and women's place. So she says, Thomas Hart's uncle was coming home late from his. I looked up this word. I looked at how to say it in like 5 different Irish dialects, and I still don't know. Cuard. So Thomas Hart's uncle was coming home, and he came in near his home, and he sees a woman. He thought it was some neighboring woman that he knows. Over he goes, and he claps his hand on her shoulder. The very minute he did, she raised her hand and caught him by the crown of the head and lifted him clear up off the road. And she hit him down against the ground again, but did not kill him. He got a terrible fright, and may God bless us and save us all. When he got up in the morning, the print of her 5 fingers was on top of his head, and his hair has turned as white as snow from the dent of the fright. So I think the story of that is don't touch strange ladies, or they're going to pick you up by the head and beat the shit out of you.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I call this next section why it always got to be the English. All right, and so in Limerick, Kilkenny, and Tipperary, she has another name that I won't say, but it still starts with Ban, but that's also known as the Keening woman. So keening was a Gaelic Celtic mourning ritual in which women would wail over the deceased bodies during a wake. They would scream, cry, beat their chest, pull out their hair, and the English thought that this practice was barbaric and a sign of Irish inferiority. This, along with the resurgence of Irish Catholicism in the 1830s, contributed to the practice of keening becoming rare, but it's still something that is very much associated with the Banshee, right? There is also part of this legend that only the quote-unquote pure Irish could be warned by the Banshee. This section comes from Delaney Mars in an article for Smithsonian Center for Folklife and Cultural Heritage. One of the Hussies, now their name is spelled Husseys, and I know that's not pronounced Hussies, but that's what you're getting called.
We're going with it, yeah.
So one of the Hussies in the town of Dingle was dying. As always, the Banshee began her crying. On her way to the house of the dying, she passed through John Street, lined with small houses whose families were thrown into a fright when they heard her, mumbling to one another, "Is one of us to die?" The Banshee paused her crying and spoke to them in verse. "Listen, listen, you hoarding traitors, you are not in danger. A Banshee has never keened your kind." She resumed her keening cry, and in the morning the news arrived, a Hussie had died. So, the Hussies, though, is an
It's a dead Hussy of Dingle.
There's a dead Hussie in Dingle. So the Hussies, their name, though, is actually an Anglicization of a older Irish name that starts with an O. And so they are among the O's and the Macs, right? And so the O'Connors, the McDonalds, the McGregors, the whatever, the people of the freckles. And each name of these old Irish lines has its own, is supposed to have its own Banshee that serves it. So each family has their own particular one. And like I said, they're supposed to be solitary creatures, but there are stories of some of the Banshees commanding other Banshees. And forget that, she's a Banshee, and she really means fae. It's fairy. Right. So having the idea of like
godmother.
Yeah, so she's like a fairy queen. So the Banshees have often been like fairy queens. So having a Banshee who could be in command of other Banshees, like, okay, that actually kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. And they would like all have names. And like one of the O'Brien's Banshee in County Clare, her name was Ava or Eva. So when the English arrived and took land like the English do, in an attempt to fit in, they too would be like, "I have a Banshee." And I'm like, "Sure, Richard, like you don't have your own fucking Banshee, Richard.
Everyone
like you
don't have a Banshee.
Everyone knows it was screaming outside your window. You can pretend like you're hearing it, but no, Richard, we know." There's a theory that the connection to the Irish family lines may be a way to try and reconnect to Irish sovereignty, as they would only come for those those with like really deep Irish roots. And also it's a majority of the appearances were for the senior male members of the household, which was really emphasizing that patriarchal line of the last name. There are some exceptions to the Irish family only rule. One is said that a banshee may lament those who were gifted with music and song, particularly those who sang for, for Ireland, right? And again, this goes to the nationalism part, or also just those who are being super Irish. And wearing a Kiss Me an Irish shirt will not cut it. Like, you have to be like doing something super hardcore for Ireland for the banshee to sing for you. There are some theories that the Banshees, like where they originated from, that they could be the spirit of a woman who lost her family tragically and forever mourns them. So a woman of white situation. Or there's also a belief that she could be the result of an unbaptized child who died and basically became a soul caught in like purgatory on Earth.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, she's a fucking fairy. So why you gotta do that? Last thing that was of kind of one of the traits that Dean listed. Freaks come out at night. Some accounts say that she appears at midnight the night before a person dies. Other, it's the two lights in the evening. But it's basically that in-between time, the witching hours, either like between 3 and 4, that type of stuff. So she don't like the daytime, she's a nighttime girl and she doesn't want to be around people. So yeah, I'm more pro Banshee. I mean, the long, like throwing my titty over my shoulder and having somebody suck it while they try and get, I don't know about that.
Wash their sheets
while I'm doing their laundry. I mean, so that is the story of the Banshee. And somehow the titty part didn't make it into this episode of Supernatural, but there's always the reboot.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Be a Dick production. Meow.